Reborn a week before the apocalypse, I didn't stockpile supplies or build a shelter. Instead, I went all in on loans to buy a dump truck, because when the apocalypse arrives, all vehicles will transform into human exoskeleton armor. Xianxia, who owned a Ferrari, evolved into a sleek, streamlined armored assassin. Li Si, driving a heavy off-road vehicle, turned into a tank-like warrior. Even Wang Germer, with his wheeling minivan, awakened, becoming a logistics armored unit skilled in transport. But in my past life, I was broke. My vehicle was just a shared bicycle, so I could only evolve into a flimsy, ridiculous piece of junk. Why did it have to be a bicycle? Even an Alto would have been better. It wasn't until later that I learned. This all follows the iron law of mass, conservation and functional mapping. The bigger and heavier the vehicle, the stronger the transformed Mech. So when I tried to use speed to provoke a mechanical Godzilla, it crushed me into a metal sheet with one step. Right before death, I had only one thought: if there's a next life, I'm going to drive the biggest damn vehicle. When I opened my eyes again, I was back 7 days before the apocalypse. After waking up, the first thing I did was check my phone balance. Only 300 yuan. That's not even enough for an electric bike wheel. But a twisted smile crept across my lips. Money is fifth. I'm a goody two-shoes who even pays online loans on time. But in 7 days, when the world order collapses, currency will become worthless paper. The credit system will reset to zero. Money will be the most useless thing in the world. Borrow like crazy. My fingers flew across the screen. Little green loan, surprise silver bar, IOU group. Living expenses, any loan that would approve. I didn't let a single one slip by. Application approved. Limit 5,000 yuan. Withdraw immediately. Application approved. Limit 80,000 yuan. Withdraw immediately. In just half an hour, my bank balance had soared to 600,000 yuan. Not enough. Far from enough. 600,000 yuan before the apocalypse could only buy a decent Mercedes E-Class, just a slightly better cannon fodder. Facing a monster like a glutton, you'd only last one more kick. I don't want survival. I want domination. I want the kind of power to punch a glutton to pieces. To walk unopposed across this wasteland, absolute strength that nothing can stop. My eyes turned to the contacts list, names I'd never dared to call normally. Loan shark middleman, Talo. Is this brother who? It's Ling Chen. Yeah, I want to borrow money. Interest is no problem. Even 13-to-1 repayment is fine. I want to owe money. The more the better. In one night, a madman emerged in Linhai City's underground finance circle, asking no questions about interest, not reading the contracts, just wanting you to lend. By dawn, I stared at the long string of numbers in my bank account. 3.8 million yuan. This was a number I traded all my future luck, even my life, for. If the apocalypse didn't come in 7 days, these creditors would tear me apart. But the apocalypse will definitely come. I walked to the bathroom, splashed cold water hard on my face. In the mirror, I had dark circles and a haggard look, but the fire in my eyes was enough to burn the world. 3.8 million. I'm going to buy a true monster. Heavy industry machinery trade zone. Here, parked like prehistoric beasts, were steel giants of immense power. I walked straight into an office, converted from a shipping container. A few rough men sat around playing cards. Seeing me enter, one bald thug with a scarred face lifted his eyelids. Recruitment's next door. Go sell insurance. Get lost, the bald man growled. I want to buy a car. I don't waste words. I pulled out my phone directly and flashed the glaring balance screen. My voice wasn't loud, but I'm in the noisy card game. It rang out with striking clarity. The bald man's movements froze. He squinted, glancing at the number on the screen. Oh ho, so you're the boss. I see now, I really see now. Xianxia, Volvo or a domestic G-Fan. If you're running long-haul logistics, I recommend. I'm not running logistics. I want the biggest one. Which vehicle here has the largest tonnage? I cut him off coldly. Dao Hu was stunned for a moment. He looked me up and down, taking in my outfit worth less than $100, suspecting I might be some brainless rich kid who stole money from home. The biggest? We've got a few recently decommissioned mining dump trucks, but those are for engineering use. They can't go on the road, Zhao Hu said hesitantly. Take me to see them, I said firmly. 10 minutes later, we stood deep in the parking lot. Even though I was mentally prepared, when I laid eyes on that colossal beast, my breath involuntarily stopped for half a beat. It was a custom heavy mining dump truck, a modified SCMG 400. Its body towered over 4 stories high, and just the massive tires were nearly 4 meters in diameter. Standing before it, I wasn't even half a tire's height. Its empty weight is 260 tons, and fully loaded, it can reach 660 tons. 660 tons. My pupils trembled violently. In my past life, Zhang Hao's prized Ferrari weighed only 1.5 tons. Even that mechanical arm that crushed me, I estimated its tonnage at around 500 tons. If I owned this vehicle, the moment the apocalypse descended, according to the law of conservation of mass, this 660-ton steel colossus would transform into a mech of terrifying power. I reached out, trembling as I touched the rough texture of the tire. The gritty sensation under my fingertips made my blood boil. Boss, you can just look at this truck. It can't be registered, and it guzzles fuel. One stomp on the gas costs hundreds. Buying it as a decoration would just waste space. Dao Hu advised from the side. How much? I cut him off, my eyes burning with obsession as I stared at the cab, towering into the clouds. Dao Hu thought he misheard and froze for a moment. I asked you, how much for this truck? If you won't sell, I'll walk away right now. I turned and locked eyes with Zhao Hu, my gaze like a starving wolf eyeing a piece of fat. Zhao Hu flinched at that look, instinctively stepping back half a pace. This truck was taken as debt repayment, but it's still industrial-grade equipment. The original price was over 20 million. Now it's depreciated, but it's still worth at least 5 million. Not a cent less. In truth, this truck had sat here for 3 years, with no one wanting it. The bottom price was 3 million. Dao Hu was just shooting his mouth off. I said coldly, I don't have that much. Only 3.8 million. Zhao Hu's face darkened, and half his earlier enthusiasm vanished. Then no deal. With 3.8 million, look over there. A used Volvo truck might be more your speed. 3.8 million, full payment, transfer now, and you don't need to handle transport. I'll drive it out myself. I stared at him and continued. This truck sitting here is just scrap metal. In a few years, it'll rot away and you won't get a cent. Sell it to me, and you can take your commission and hit the club tonight. 10 minutes later, the electronic contract was signed. With a soft ding, the balance in my card was wiped clean, leaving only a few hundred for living expenses. Boss, do you know how to drive this thing? It's nothing like driving a car. You need a special license. Zhao Hu asked, looking at me. In my past life, just to scrounge a meal in the survivor camp, I spent 3 years repairing vehicles for the convoy. There wasn't a vehicle I hadn't touched. I replied coldly. I climbed the nearly vertical metal ladder, step by step, up to the cab 4 stories high. Sitting in that oversized, throne-like driver's seat, I looked down at the summoner below. At that moment, he seemed as tiny as a mouse. This lofty perspective, this was power. I took a deep breath, trembling as I inserted the key into the ignition. I turned it, rumble, the steel heart that had slept for 3 years awakened. The massive diesel engine let out a thunderous roar. The entire parking lot floor trembled. Zhao Hu, covering his ears, stared in shock at the scene. Chardai? No, from today you're called Fortress. We're going home. I shifted into gear, released the handbrake, and stumped hard on the accelerator, accompanied by the grating screech of metal and the engine's furious growl. This 660-ton steel beast lurched forward. The barbed wire fence ahead was smashed open. The barrier arm at the entrance was crushed. Zhao Hu watched in terror as that massive truck, like a runaway wild bull, completely ignored the barrier and forcibly rammed a path through. Madman, this damn guy is absolutely insane. Zhao Hu shouted, standing still. I drove the Fortress, feeling the unparalleled jolts and roars, a wild grin splitting across my face. But this shell alone wasn't enough. There were still 7 days until the apocalypse. That was just enough time to arm this vehicle to the teeth. I pulled out a crumpled slip of paper, with an address written on it. It was the largest black market modification shop in Linhai City. Next, I'd install a ramming prow, weld reinforcing steel mesh, and transform the front into a mobile arsenal. Zhang Hao, Lai Meng, and that glutton. Are you ready to face fear? In the northern suburbs of Linhai City, there was a gray zone deliberately erased from map software. The locals called it Scrap City. It was a paradise for illegal modifications. Normally, it was filled with the screech of cutting machines and the roar of heavy metal music. But today, the entire Scrap City was shrouded in an eerie silence, because a monster had arrived. Rumble, the ground trembled. The mining dump truck, like a moving mountain, barbarically squeezed into the narrow road. The scrapped cars on both sides, before this behemoth, looked like toy models scattered on the ground. I slammed on the brakes. The hiss of air brakes sounded like a whale spout, kicking up a cloud of dust. A few mechanics, terrified, collapsed to the ground. Before lying, a middle-aged burly man holding a wrench worked out. His name was Wang Taishan, the best mechanic in Scrap City. Brother, did you take a run turn? This is a repair shop, not an open-pit mine. This thing's cracked my shop's foundation, Wang Taishan said with a frown. No maintenance, only modifications. I pulled a neatly folded blueprint from my pocket, one I had conceived in my mind countless times, during my past life's endless life-or-death escapes. It was the blueprint for the fortress. Wang Taishan took the blueprint, glanced at it, and his brow furrowed into a deep crease. Install a V-shaped ramming prow like a heavy icebreaker on the front, cover the entire vehicle with 50 mm thick marine-grade steel plates, and even add anti-blast chain armor to the tires. Brother, are you going to war in Syria? We're planning to ram a bank vault with this thing. This truck's already heavy on its own. Add all this iron and it'll take off. I need absolute defense and ramming power. Can you do it or not? If not, I'll find another shop. I can do it. But the workload is insane. Just cutting and welding those steel plates will drain half my life. and you're asking for it too fast. Besides, the time frame you've given is too tight. 3 days? That's absolutely impossible. 500,000 for labor, materials extra. Wang Taishan's breathing instantly grew heavy. 500,000 is enough for 3 years of work. Deal. Brothers, stop sleeping. Everyone get up, we've got a big job. He shouted loudly toward the workshed. Just as the workers began to take up their posts, the sharp, piercing roar of an engine came from the factory gate. A red Ferrari shot into the yard like a bolt of lightning. In this place full of oil stains and scrap metal, it looked completely out of place. The car door opened, and a young man wearing sunglasses, drenched in designer brands, stepped out. It was Zhang Hao, that bastard from my past life, too, relying on his sports car mutating into an agile Mech, stole my only food, and kicked me into a pile of zombies. Enemies meeting face to face, eyes burning with hatred, but at this moment, I was strangely calm, coldly watching this gaudy peacock. Is my rear wing here or not? I have to get first place. Found it. Full carbon fiber, same as F1 race cars. Guaranteed to make your car as light as paper. Wang Taishan was lost in thought. Hearing this, from the shadows, a fifth curve of a cold smile crept across my lips. Yeah, light as paper. The moment the apocalypse descends, mass is life. Zhang Hao's pride, that carbon fiber body, in pursuit of ultimate speed, sacrificed all defense. In that mutation, his Mech had half the speed. But its defense was worse than a tin trash can. What the hell is that? Zhang Hao finally noticed in the distance that sky-covering mining truck in front of the red Ferrari. This pitch-black beast was like an insurmountable mountain. Old Wank, since when did you start collecting scrap metal? Why is this big ugly thing sitting here, blocking my light, you know? He turned around and met my dead fish eyes. Oh, isn't this that guy? Tahar, the insurance salesman or the delivery guy? Ling Chen, right? What are you doing here? Don't tell me this truck is yours. Tahar. Are you that desperate for money? What are you buying this piece of junk for? Going to haul bricks at a construction site? I think you're trying to scam someone. Park this thing across the road, who dare hit it? Tahar, that kills me. Can you torque? Cat, get your tongue. I'm asking you a question. Move this junk out of the way now. I need to upgrade and modify my car. Seeing that I didn't respond, Zhang Hao shouted impatiently, enjoy your speed while you can. After all, in 4 days, you'll only use it to run for your life. Old Wank, ignore this poor loser. Fix mine first, or don't expect the final payment. Zhang Hao yelled at Wang Taishan. Watching Zhang Hao drive the Ferrari onto the lift, beginning to remove the original steel bumpers, and replace them with lighter carbon fiber ones, the coldness in my eyes deepened. He was subtracting, while I was adding. In this upcoming apocalypse gamble, we were betting on completely opposite ends. Night fell. To meet the deadline, I spent a full 200,000 on overtime pay. 20 welders worked in shifts. The originally flat heat-dissipating grill had been removed, replaced by a massive triangular ram. This ram was like a sword piercing the sky. Any obstacle in its path would be torn apart on contact. This steel plate is too thin. Replace it, bring that old ship plate over. I want that 30mm one. I directed the welder. Hey brother, that ship raid plate. Deadly heavy. If I plastered it all on, the door's foot chains would snap. The foreman said, troubled. Then swap the foot chains too, replace them with tank-grade shock absorbers. I was resolute for 3 days and 3 nights. I barely closed my eyes, staring intently at every single weld, every bolt tight into the last thread. With each steel plate added, the vehicle's ore began to shift. It turned into a beast draped in armor, and the third dawn of the war's frenzy. The modification was finally complete. It sat there, silent, exuding a suffocating pressure. Good heavens! What kind of monster have we built? Wang Taishan muttered, gazing at the finished product. Completing the mods was just the first step. A tank without fuel is just an iron coffin. A fortress without food is a grave. Now, only 3 days remain until the apocalypse. I drove this black behemoth out of the scrapyard. All along the road, every vehicle swerved as if seeing a ghost, scattering away from this 3,650 horsepower diesel beast. It was a true oil guzzler. Fuel consumption measured in hundreds of liters per 100 kilometers. Once the apocalypse struck, gas stations would explode or run dry in an instant. Fuel would become a hard currency more precious than gold. So I went straight to a private oil depot. Boss, I want to buy diesel. Grade -35, cold resistant. How much do you have? I'll take it all. I knocked on the depot office door. The boss was a shrewd, fat man. He sized up my strange vehicle. Brother, inspections are tight lately. Buying in bulk requires a permit. And 20% premium, cash on the spot. And I want those 200-liter drums. Fill every single one. Use the forklift to load them into my truck bed. I replied calmly, money makes the world go round. Half an hour later, barrel after barrel of heavy diesel began piling into the truck bed, a full 20 tons, enough to run thousands of kilometers in the early apocalypse, or keep a generator running for half a year. Next, I drove to the wholesale market. I didn't buy fleshy snacks, but headed straight for the grain and oil section. 500 boxes of compressed biscuits, 200 boxes of canned luncheon meat, 2 tons of rice, 2 tons of bottled purified water. The market bosses were grinning ear to ear, thinking I was some big-time buyer from somewhere. They even offered to deliver. No need to deliver. I pointed to the black mountain parked outside. Just load it directly. When the last box of water was wedged into a gap, the entire truck bed was nearly packed full, but this 400-ton capacity giant, swallowing tens of tons of supplies, its suspension didn't even sag a single centimeter. 24 hours before the apocalypse, the city's atmosphere began to feel off. Though most were still lost in daily routines, the sensitive ones had already sensed the anomaly. The sky took on an eerie, sickly glow. The clouds hung oppressively low. Even phone signals started cutting in and out. The news broadcast, anomalies appearing everywhere. Experts argued on TV whether this was a precursor to a solar flare, but I knew it wasn't solar flares. It was the mechanical seed approaching Earth, a high-dimensional energy wave that would rewrite the planet's physical laws. I drove the fortress slowly toward my carefully chosen destination. It was located on the city's edge, an unfinished elevated bridge. The terrain was high, offering both offense and defense. Most importantly, few people and few cars were there. After all, the apocalypse's first wave wouldn't come from mechanical beasts, but from the vehicles around humans. January 26, 2026, 11:58. 2 minutes until the apocalypse. It was the city's busiest hour. Traffic flowed like a river at the intersection. A red Ferrari was at the crossing, revving its engine. That was Zhang Hao. And the sidewalk, Wang Erdu rode his old-fashioned bicycle, with freshly bought groceries hanging from the handlebars. Everyone followed their predetermined paths, completely unaware. The last 10 seconds, the grayish yellow in the sky suddenly turned into a piercing purple-red. The clouds began to spin, forming a massive vortex. All electronic devices went black at that moment. The traffic lights died. The entire city's power system instantly collapsed. The whole world plunged into that 1 second of utter silence. I took a deep breath, my hands gripping the steering wheel so tightly, my knuckles turned white. An indescribable purple shockwave descended from the zenith of the sky, sweeping across the globe in an instant. Boom! It wasn't an explosion, but a resonance that struck the very soul. I couldn't feel my hearing, only an overwhelming force, pinning me to the driver's seat. The seat grew warm and soft, as countless nanometal particles surged from it, crawling up my spine, covering my entire body. Neural link establishing power core, synchronizing life support system, initiating a series of cold, mechanical voices rang directly in my mind. This wasn't an illusion. The windshield before me instantly liquefied, turning into a massive panoramic light screen, with endless data scrolling across it. According to the SCMG 400 Modified Fortress Conversion Protocol, mass conservation and functional mapping, conversion completion, 100%. Mesh designation, fortress, height, 15.6 meters, total mass, 660 tons, armor type, heavy naval, composite armor, average thickness, 80 millimeters, core, G40 rhomboid diesel power matrix, power output, 3,650 horsepower, status, perfect. I clenched my fist fiercely, feeling the immense power within me. I had merged with this steel behemoth. My thoughts were its commands, my will its actions. I looked out the window. My vision had risen to over 10 meters high. The whole world had gone mad. At the intersection, that red Ferrari was falling, its body stretching, its 4 wheels flipping and folding into limbs. The front split apart, forming a pair of sharp wings on its back. Moments later, a 3-meter-tall, blood-red assassin tech Mech was born. Haharha, is this the power of a god? Zhang Sen's laughter echoed through some resonance channel, ringing in the minds of all nearby Mechs. I feel like I can surpass the speed of light. His Mech turned into a red streak, darting through the streets at breakneck speed, slamming into a Mech that had just transformed from a bus, tinning it down. Trash, all of you are trash. Dangsen roared over the public channel. Not far away, Wanker Mars's old bicycle had also completed its transformation. The frame became bones. The 2 wheels hung front and back on its back. The handlebars turned into 2 short clubs. The entire Mech looked extremely fragile. Mesh designation, unknown. Total mass, 18 kilograms. His data automatically popped up in my vision. This was the me from my past life, even a bit stronger than me. After my shared bike transformed, its total mass was only 15 kilograms. This was the iron law of the apocalypse. Cruel yet fair. Just then, that red streak noticed this black giant standing on the overpass. What the hell is that thing? In Zhang Sen's public channel, fear appeared for the first time. His 3-meter-tall crimson lightning looked like a toy before my fortress. I didn't respond. I simply slowly raised my right arm. I merely raised my right arm slowly. This arm was rebuilt from a dump truck weighing dozens of tons. Its outer layer is covered with 30mm thick premium steel. The ram at the front is heavy and ferocious. As I move, the massive diesel generator set begins to growl. The hydraulic system emits a piercing roar. A plume of black smoke belches from the exhaust stack behind me, blotting out the sky. This pure power leaves Xianxia speechless. Can you? Who are you? Playing tricks? I warn you, don't block my path. I am the king of speed. You're a sitting duck. Before the sound finishes, his blood lightning engine roars, turning into a blur of light. He charges straight at me. He wants to use his proud speed to prove his strength. Those sharp arm blades slice through the air at high speed, producing a sharp screech as they aim for my leg armor. In my past life, he kicked me into a zombie horde just like this. I watch him calmly. You know nothing about mass. My low voice broadcasts through the public channel at full power, like a divine decree echoing through the entire block. The next moment, sparks fly in all directions. Dangsen's arm blades strike my shin armor, then shatter inch by inch. His arm blades, made of F1 racing car parts and carbon fiber, before the 80mm thick marine-grade composite steel plate, are as fragile as cookies. The massive recoil force sends his Mech flying backward, rolling awkwardly across the ground. Now impossible. Dangsen screams. My shock, how could you? Check. He mistakes carbon fiber for shock. I can't be bothered to waste more words with him. I raise my right foot. That giant tire, over 4 meters in diameter, is now a complex war machine component. I simply press down slowly. Don't. Dangsen's crimson lightning bursts with full power, desperately trying to escape the ever-growing shadow. His speed is indeed fast, leaving after images on the ground, but against such a vast coverage area, it's meaningless. The ground trembles violently. The overpass beneath my feet groans under the strain. Countless cracks spread from the center of my foot. I slowly lift my foot, leaving only a half-meter deep footprint on the ground, and in the center of that footprint, a lump of red scrap metal crushed into a flat cake. The world falls silent. I look around. Chaos still reigns. The newly transformed vehicle mesh. Some are frantically attacking everything around them. Others are scattering in panic. This is the first wave of impact, chaos born from humanity itself. But just then, a low, piercing sound comes from the east of the city, distant yet clear. Turvil, turvil, turvil. That sound carries a roar, primal hunger. I snap my head around. My vision stretches to its limit, and the eastern horizon, a colossal figure is slowly rising. That was once the city's largest landfill. Now, tens of thousands of tons of metal waste, scrapped cars, construction rebar, everything is writhing, converging and fusing. It has no fixed form, just a writhing mass of steel sludge. On its body, from time to time, tentacles made of a dozen car racks extend to coil around a newly transformed Mech. Accompanied by a skin-crawling crunching sound, that Mech becomes part of its body. Detected. High energy aggregate. Codename. Gluttony. Approximate mass 8,000 tons. Warning. Extreme danger. Evacuate immediately. The system in my mind emits a piercing alarm. 1,000 tons. I watch that monster, endlessly devouring everything, its body still swelling. A long-lost thrill of battle surges through me. In my past life, in the eyes of those apex predators, I truly wasn't even enough to fill the gaps between their teeth. But now, I lowered my head and looked at myself. This 660-ton steel colossus. I couldn't help but smile. No. My father's gear shifted up. The roar of the power core suddenly surged by several quanter. This was a hunt of 8,000 tons, a number enough to drive anyone to despair. In the early days of the apocalypse, most survivors' mechs were still stuck at the level of a dozen or so tons. This beast, cobbled together from garbage and scrap steel, was an insurmountable life form. It had no special traits. Its chassis was a writhing mass of molten lead, mixed with discarded tires. It moved slowly, but with every step forward, the asphalt road crumbled like biscuits. Along the way, scrapped vehicles, lampposts, and even the low-level machines that dodged too slowly were all swept up by the magnetic tentacles extending from its body, roughly stuffed into that mouth formed by several excavator buckets and Tinko spreaders. The grating sound of metal being chewed echoed through the streets. Warning, energy gap too large. Immediate evacuation recommended. The system's cold prompt flashed in my mind, blazing with glaring red light. I raised my hand and swiped through the air, directly shutting down the alarm module. Does bigger always mean stronger? I leaned back in the warm driver's seat, both hands gripping the dual rails transformed from the steering wheel. In my past life, I repaired vehicles for the convoy for 3 years. I'd seen too many flashy, hollow assemblies. This glutton was just a massive body, its mass forcibly piled up by devouring garbage. Its internal structure was loose, never truly refined by high-risk energy. It was a crumbling sandcastle, while I was a solid steel ball. The glutton spotted me. This fortress, standing 15.6 meters tall on the overpass, its body covered in pitch-black heavy armor, was far too conspicuous. Then, a strange howl like an air raid siren rang out. A massive appendage formed by 3 bus carriages linked end to end, coiled together into a giant whip. descended with a shrill wind, smashing down like a colossal lash. I didn't retreat. I shoved the control stick forward hard. The 3,650 horsepower G400 diesel matrix let out a thunderous roar, and two black pillars of smoke shot from the exhaust pipes. The fortress's thick legs bent slightly, then exploded with force. The overpass deck instantly collapsed. I didn't choose to resist head-on. Instead, using the momentum of the bridge's collapse, I charged straight toward that bus tentacle. With a crack, the fortress's right arm lifted. That shield welded from retired icebreaker, 30 special steel plates, slammed hard into the tentacle, spraying sparks, creating a brief waterfall of fire. The tentacle, made from thin bus metal, was no match for true heavy industry special steel. It crumbled. The massive recoil force, the fortress's right arm armor, was dented by a barely visible few millimeters, but the core structure was unharmed. Is that all the strength you've got? I grinned, a flash of brutality in my eyes. The fortress landed. Its 660-ton body crashed onto the street, leaving two deep craters. Without a moment's pause, I floored the accelerator to -35. The low-temperature diesel exploded wildly in the combustion chamber, and surging kinetic energy poured through the drive shaft into the legs. The 660-ton steel behemoth unleashed a terrifying explosive power, completely at odds with its massive frame. Charging straight at that riding 8,000-ton mountain of steel, I roared as I charged. The blood, seeing this end of a creature daring to deliver itself to its doorstep, let out a piercing, ear-splitting shriek. Its remaining dozen or so tentacles lashed out simultaneously. Some were saw arms twisted from excavator booms, some were whip edges made of rebar and sheet metal, and others were hammerheads, pieced together from scrap shipping containers. Like a death net that blotted out the sky, they sealed off every escape route. The mechs of the few survivors still alive nearby. A desperate cry of despair echoed through the public channel. He's insane, absolutely insane. An 8,000-ton biodevourer. Even a military tank formation couldn't withstand that. And he dares to charge head-on? It's over, he's definitely going to be ground into scrap metal. But they didn't know. In my past life, 3 years of surviving the apocalypse, I'd seen too many flashy, hollow constructs, and I understood one unshakable truth. Fancy attacks, no matter how many, if they can't break through defense, they're all useless. Just as those dozen tentacles were about to crush me, the light in my eyes surged. My neural link maxed out instantly. From the depths of my soul, a roar shook my being. Asterisk blade, come exclamation asterisk. With a single thwart, the power shattered the icebreaker's hull. It instantly disintegrated into countless cold glinting nanometers. The precision force was less than 0.3 meters. A blade, 12.8 meters in total length, weighing 85 tons, a massive single-handed heavy chopping sword, materialized in full form. The blade was forged from the icebreaker's original special nickel alloy steel. The edge came from a mining dump truck's wear-resistant shovel blade. The patterns on the blade still carried the cold, murderous aura of the original ship, perfectly matched to my fortress mech's heavy load. Asterisk crushing blade break from me exclamation asterisk. I roared, my blood surging. I twisted my entire body violently. All 3,650 horsepower of power flowed into my right arm. The heavy chopping sword in my hand met the tentacle neck head-on. I slashed out a sky-shattering blade light. A deafening clash of metal and iron exploded in rapid succession. Sparks nearly lit up half of Linhai City. Those tentacles, which could easily flatten a dozen-ton mech, under this blade, infused with all my tonnage power, were as brittle as dried branches severed in a single stroke. Broken iron plates and steel bars clattered to the ground. Black hydraulic oil poured down like a rainstorm. The public channel fell into dead silence. After a few seconds, an overwhelming wave of exclamations erupted. Asterisk holy shit exclamation asterisk. Asterisk he cut off over a dozen tentacles with one slash exclamation asterisk. Asterisk what kind of monster level strength is that asterisk? Asterisk where did that blade come from asterisk? Asterisk it wasn't there a moment ago exclamation asterisk. Asterisk compared to Zhang Hao's brittle carbon fiber arm blades asterisk. Asterisk this is what real killing power looks like exclamation asterisk. I paid no attention to the uproar in the channel. Using the recoil from severing the tentacles, my fortress mech pushed off with both legs. The 660-ton body leaped into the air, landing directly onto the devourer's mountain-like torso. The steel sludge beneath my feet churned wildly. Countless spikes rose up, trying to pierce me, but the 80mm thick ship-grade composite armor came down hard, crushing every spike into iron filings. My gaze locked onto the center of its torso, that pulsing, violet red core of flame. That was its only lifeline. Asterisk game over dot asterisk. I raised the heavy chopping sword high. All power surged into the blade. I aimed straight for the core and stabbed down. But just as the tip was about to touch the core, that light suddenly erupted. With a blinding violet red radiance, an energy so suffocating it was almost unbearable, exploded outward. In my mind, the system's piecing alarm screamed. Asterisk warning. Devour forcibly evolving asterisk mass exceeding 20,000 tons asterisk core energy completely out of control the evolution's energy shockwave swept across the entire street in an instant. The surrounding abandoned buildings collapsed like paper. The originally loose steel sludge under the high energy refinement compressed madly. It forged a 20,000-ton steel body into a 50mm thick integrated alloy armor. The once riding chassis grew 6 massive mechanical legs. The sealed evolution core beat like a small sun, radiating a world-destroying pressure. The few survivors left in the public channel fell into utter despair. It's over a 20,000-ton evolved devourer in Linhai City there's no saving it now the tonnage difference is nearly 20 times completely plunged into despair. It's over. The 20,000-ton advanced glutton is approaching the coast. The city is utterly hopeless. The tonnage difference is nearly 20 times. Even a top-tier powerhouse couldn't have won that fight just now. Run now or it'll be too late. The system's red alerts were still flooding the screen. Warning, the target's overall combat power is 17 times that of the host. It can release a wide-range energy shockwave. Evacuate immediately. Evacuate. I leaned back in the warm driver's seat. A cold, sinister smile curled at the corner of his mouth. In my past life, I'd seen plenty of these patchwork fires, forcibly advancing through raw energy. He looked like his tonnage had skyrocketed. But in truth, his core was completely exposed. At the joints of his 6 mechanical legs, those were fatal gaps where energy refinement was incomplete. He was still that crumbling sandcastle, and I was that solid steel ball, the harder, the tougher. The enraged, evolved glutton opened its maw and spat out a violet red energy blast. Shockwave. Wherever it passed, the asphalt melted into molten iron. It came straight for my cockpit. Everyone thought I'd dodge, but I did the exact opposite. I shoved the controls forward. The fortress Mech charged headlong into the shockwave. Redstone moved with a thought. The Suian heavy cleaver instantly shifted form. Its blade expanded into a 20-meter-wide alloy sword shield, firmly blocking in front of me. Boom! The shockwave slammed into the sword shield. A piercing screech of metal burning erupted. The entire block was bathed in violet red light. When the light faded, the whole world fell silent. My fortress Mech stood rock steady in place. The giant shield bore scorch marks but was intact. The core was unharmed. Impossible. This is absolutely. Someone screamed in the public channel. In that instant the glutton froze. I seized that fleeting opening. The fortress Mech lunged forward, using the momentum of the charge. It stumped hard, snapping 2 of its mechanical leg joints. The evolved glutton instantly lost balance, letting out a pained roar. Its massive body tilted, crashing down. I didn't pause for a second. The hydraulic claw on my left arm slammed into its chest. No matter how it threshed or struggled, it couldn't budge. The right hand raised the rock-shattering heavy cleaver high again. The blade hummed from power overload, emitting a low drone. Golden energy light flowed along the edge. The heavy cleaver, carrying earth-shattering force, plunged deep into its chest. The completely exposed spark core. The core instantly exploded, with energy several times more intense than before. It burst forth like a tsunami. The evolved glutton's 20,000-ton body let out a dying groan, then rapidly collapsed, finally turning into a pile of molten scrap. Nanometal particles frantically devoured the erupting spark. System prompts flooded my mind in rapid succession. High-grade spark energy absorption complete. Mech total mass increased to 2,100 tons. Armor thickness upgraded to 150 millimeters. Spark refined alloy steel. Power core upgraded to dual matrix diesel engine. Peak power output 18,000 horsepower. Suian heavy cleaver upgraded. Can release spark enhanced shockwave. Total mass increased to 120 tons. I slowly clenched my fist, feeling the surging power within me. I casually swung the blade. A golden shockwave directly sliced a distant office building in half. The golden blade light dissipated. The entire street fell silent, leaving only the crackling sound of cooling metal. I stood amid the glutton's remains. Beneath my feet, molten scrap glowed dark red. Behind me, 2 massive exhaust pipes spewed black smoke. The 15-meter fortress had now swelled to over 20 meters. Armor thicker, joints heavier. Even every breath sounded like a steel factory in operation. In the public channel, a trembling voice finally spoke. "Brother, big brother, what level of Mech are you?" I looked down. Behind the rubble at the street corner, a few small Mechs cowered. One converted from a van, one from a sedan, and one from a delivery e-bike. The slender-legged Mech that had transformed still carried a deformed thermal box in its hand. They didn't charge forward, nor did they kneel and beg for mercy. They were just afraid. That kind of fear, I knew it all too well from my past life. At the start of the apocalypse, everyone thought they had awakened as the protagonist, until the first monster appeared. Then they realized they were just working rations. I ignored them. The core furnace in the fortress's chest vibrated slightly, automatically absorbing the residual fragments of the glutton's encirclement. Detected a fusible module within the body, source of the magnetic traction chain. Should the glutton's tentacle structure be fused? Fuse. With a clatter, the heavy armor on the fortress's back opened, revealing several thick black chains, extending from both sides of the spine. Their ends were magnetized with barbs. The moment the magnetic traction chain fusion was complete, the armor on the fortress's back closed again. At the street corner, those few small mechs finally mustered the courage to step forward. A van mech raised its hands, its voice trembling. "Boss, we mean no harm. We just want to ask if we can follow you." The nearby delivery e-bike mech was even more direct, its legs shaking. "I won't freeload. I can deliver goods, fix tires, and run errands." I swept my gaze over them, total mass ranging from tens of kilograms to 2 tons. In the first day of the apocalypse, these mechs weren't even cannon fodder, but the fear in their eyes was real. In my past life, I too once stood before the strong like this, bowing my dignity low, just begging for a bite to eat. I didn't refuse them outright, nor did I agree. Just then, from the far end of the street came heavy footsteps. Thud thud, an off-road mech about 6 meters tall appeared, no wasted parts. Its gait was broad-shouldered and heavy-footed. Its limbs were thick and sturdy, and hanging from its chest was a ramming device transformed from an off-road vehicle's front bumper. Behind it followed over a dozen small mechs, like a pack of hounds that had just found a backer. A familiar voice rang out on the public channel. "Everyone don't panic. I'm Lai Meng. From now on, this block is under my control." My eyes turned cold. Lai Meng, the temporary leader of the third shelter in Linhai in my past life. He wasn't the strongest, but he was the best at playing the good guy. He'd talk about unified resource distribution, but in reality, he'd take whatever he wanted. In my past life, I repaired vehicles for 3 years, replacing his armor plates countless times. Each time, he'd pat my shoulder and say, "Ling Chen, work hard. Brother won't treat you badly." Later, when the zombie horde charged the camp, he was the first to push us repairmen out to block the door. Lai Meng's off-road mech stopped 100 meters in front of me. He looked up at the fortress over 20 meters tall. His voice clearly faltered for a moment, but he quickly steadied himself. "Brother, I saw it all just now. You're indeed fierce, but no matter how fierce one man is, he can't guard so many supplies alone." He raised his hand, pointing at the cargo bed behind me. Tiled there were diesel, canned water, and compressed biscuits. In the first day of the apocalypse, these things were worth more than life itself. The surrounding survivors, mech's gazes instantly shifted, fear now tinged with a hint of greed. Lai Meng knew human nature well. He continued, "Here's the deal. You hand over the supplies, and we'll distribute them evenly. You'll be the main combat force, and I'll handle management. We'll combine strengths, and more people will survive." The van mech couldn't help but take a half step back. The delivery e-bike mech muttered softly, "But those things are the boss's own." Lai Meng whipped his head around, glaring coldly. "What's yours or mine? He's this strong. Can skipping a bite really kill him?" The public channel fell silent in an instant. I smirked. This guy was all too familiar. In his past life, he stood on that same moral high ground, turning what belonged to others into everyone's property with a single sentence. I raised my right arm. The blade of the judgment cutter hung at my side. Its tip scraped across the ground, carving a trench that spat sparks. "Lai Meng, just say what you want." Lai Meng's voice dropped. "Brother, don't make it sound so ugly. I'm giving you an out. You just fought a big battle. Your mech must be drained. There are over a dozen of us here. Are you really going to turn against all the survivors for a few crates of canned goods?" The mechs behind him immediately closed in. Some tense, some eager. A mech made from a small truck raised a steel fork. Its voice was dry. "Brother Meng's right supplies should be shared equally." Another car mech chimed in. "So much diesel, can he use it all alone?" A delivery e-bike mech snapped. "Why didn't you dare fight the devourer just now? Now you show up to divvy up the loot." Lai Meng raised his hand and slapped it. That e-bike mech was sent rolling 7 or 8 meters. Its insulated box was crushed and deformed. "Who gave you the right to speak here?" My gaze turned ice cold. I could choose not to save anyone, but I despise those who trample the weak while playing savior. Lai Meng turned back. His tone carried a threat. "Last chance, Ling Chen, hand over the supplies and join us. Or don't blame me for being ruthless." I didn't answer. The dual matrix diesel core at the fortress's chest roared to life. 2 plumes of black smoke blasted from its back. The shattered glass and the entire street trembled. Lai Meng's face changed. He immediately stepped back half a pace, but with too many people behind him, he couldn't afford to show weakness. He just fought the devourer. He's running on fumes now. Over a dozen mech charged at once. Steel forks, iron rods, car doors, shields all smashed toward my fortress. I stood motionless. Clang, 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 clang. My heart was like an arrow. Those attacks struck the 150 forged alloy steel. Not even a decent scratch was left. Someone froze in the spot. How do we fight this? I lifted my foot and stamped lightly. The ground caved in. The 3 small mechs in front were shaken to the ground. Their joints sparked wildly. I didn't crush them, just made sure they couldn't move. The real target wasn't these manipulated fools. It was Lai Meng. He circled to my flank in the case. The off-road mech's front armor plate suddenly deployed for a heavy charge. The 6-meter-tall mech exploded with terrifying speed, like a runaway armored vehicle. It slammed hard toward my knee. In his past life, he'd taken down many strong foes with that move, but before a 2,100-ton fortress, his impact was less than a ripple. I raised my hand, fingers spread. The back armor silently split open. The next second, a dozen magnetic traction chains burst out from what was empty a moment ago. In an instant, it spread like a steel spiderweb. Lai Meng's pupils shrank. What is that? The magnetic hooks precisely locked onto his shoulders. The blade armor and leg joints were clamped by strong magnets. His charge came to a screeching halt 30 meters in front of me. Inertia made his entire armor groan. I pulled my right arm. The 6-meter off-road mech was dragged to my feet like a sack. Lai Meng was completely panicked. I just wanted to cooperate. I looked down at him. You said the same thing in your past life. Lai Meng froze. In the next instant, a dozen hovering magnetic traction chains burst forth from thin air, where just moments ago there was nothing, instantly spreading like a steel spiderweb. Lai Meng's pupils contracted sharply. What the hell is this? Magnetic claws precisely locked onto his shoulders. Wax-like strung magnets seized the joints of his blade armor and legs. His charge was forcibly halted 30 meters in front of me. Inertia made his entire armored suit groan. I pulled my right arm back. The 6-meter-tall off-road mech was dragged to my feet like a sack of grain. Lai Meng was utterly panicked. I just want to cooperate. I looked down at him. You said the same thing in your past life. Lai Meng froze. What previous life? I didn't explain. Su Yan flipped the blade in his hand and slammed it down with the back of the knife. Cracked. The armor on his right arm shattered on the spot. The collision guard plate deformed from the off-road vehicle broke into pieces on the ground. The second strike snapped the left jaw drive shaft. The third strike, the row of impact plates on his chest was smashed into scrap. Lai Meng's voice completely changed. Ken was the earlier calm. Only trembling remained. Stop, stop. I don't want the supplies anymore. I'll leave right now. I leaned down. The steel giant pressed down on his head armor. My voice echoed across the entire street. Remember, the apocalypse isn't your stage to play the good guy. If you ever use others as bargaining chips again, I won't just be dismantling your frame. Lai Meng lay on the ground, not daring to move. Behind him, all the mechers froze. The small truck mecha that had shouted the loudest earlier silently dropped its steel fork to the ground. The delivery e-bike mecha crawled out of the rubble, looking at me, its voice hoarse. Big Prophet, thank you. I didn't look at him. I retracted the magnetic traction chain. Then I bent down and picked up a still glowing ember fragment from the glutton's remains. The system chimed in promptly. Low-grade ember fragment detected. Can be used for temporary enhancement of subordinate mecha. I turned to look at the delivery e-bike mecha. He was so scared he immediately stood at attention. I tossed the ember fragment at his feet. You dared to speak up just now. This is your reward. He froze. The breathing of every mecha around stopped for a moment. Lai Meng lay on the ground, sparks still crackling from the gaps in his armor, staring at the ember fragment with bloodshot eyes. The delivery e-bike mecha trembled as he picked up the fragment. The next second, his thin legs began to restructure. The insulated box on his back split open, turning into a pair of lightweight flight wings. His voice shook uncontrollably over the public channel. Big Prophet, I've gotten stronger. The delivery e-bike mecha had just finished fusing with the ember fragment. His height shot up from 1.5 meters to 2.8 meters. The newly born propulsion wings retracted behind him, their iron gray, thin edges still humming and vibrating. Big brother, my name is Zhu Fan. He looked up, his voice still trembling. I used to deliver food. The whole area around Linhai University was my turf. No one within 3 kilometers was faster than me. I said nothing. At that moment, in the system map, Linhai City had turned into a mess of chaotic red and green dots. Red dots were mechanical beasts. Green dots were survivor mechers. The green dots were rapidly dwindling, not because they were being devoured by mechanical beasts, but because they were consuming each other. I was about to move the supplies to a safer high ground, when a voice suddenly exploded over the public channel. The Linhai Industrial Port Zone is now fully under my control. There's plenty of fuel in the port zone, along with metal materials and industrial machinery. If you want to survive, bring your supplies and report to the port zone. If you don't, you'll face the consequences. The channel instantly erupted. Zhao Henian, that navigation tycoon's eldest son. The port zone, aren't there several 10,000-ton cargo ships docked there? Damn, if those ships turned into mechers too. I stared at the system map, at the dense cluster of light dots in the port zone. Zhao Henian. In my past life, the biggest power in Linhai City was Zhao Henian. not because he was a great fighter, but because his father's shipping company had 3 10,000-ton bulk carriers docked in the port. The moment the apocalypse descends, 3 10,000-ton cargo ships transforming at once. Ship conversion efficiency was far lower than land-based. Tall structures used a lot of low-density compartment designs, so the actual effective mass was only about a third of the total weight. But the sheer scale made up for it. The three ships combined had an effective conversion mass exceeding 15,000 tons. In my past life, Zhao Hinian relied on those three-ship mechers to dominate Linhe, but then, until he encountered that thing crawling out of the deep sea,